When I was playing Rising Storm 2 recently, I did say that I wanted to focus as much as I could on some hardcore tactical shooters before the release of BF5. Insurgency Sandstorm was one of those games on the list, and at E3 I was lucky enough to get my hands on it and record some footage that you're seeing here. This was running on PC, and the only mode they had available to play and record at E3 was versus bots. It's kind of a co-op mission experience, you could say, so keep in mind that this footage isn't PvP. So then, the original standalone Insurgency game released in 2014, and it utilised Valve's Source engine, but before that there was a total conversion mod for Half-Life 2 titled Insurgency Modern Infantry Combat, and the standalone version of Insurgency has sold over 5 million copies, which for an indie title is very impressive. There are some limitations with the Source engine though. While 5 to 6 years ago Source engine games would look pretty good, they don't really look that great anymore. Apart from something like Titanfall, which took the Source engine and completely overhauled it. Not every studio though has the time or money to do something like that. For the most part, they're going to be using the base engine just to make their life that little bit easier. So moving to Unreal gives the team an engine that has some of the best visuals right now, and it will let them improve upon the game in the long run. Ex-creative director Andrew Spearin said previously that using Unreal Engine 4, we can really maximise the potential of our team. In Source you're limited to a certain level. A lot of people think that the graphics of Insurgency aren't that great, but with Unreal Engine 4, there are no excuses. Spearin has since left the studio, but the fact remains that the Unreal Engine should help push the game forward. And after playing the game, it is a definite improvement on the Source engine, but I did find it quite blurry and the performance was pretty bad. Fingers crossed though, this is work in progress, so I'm hoping that the devs can improve on this greatly before the launch of the game. So in terms of the gameplay, Sandstorm felt very core Insurgency. I did play the mod a bit back in the day and the standalone, and the Sandstorm experience holds the same design philosophies, but has also made some improvements such as bullet drop, travel time, and more interactions with the environment. There was even talk at one point of a single player campaign based around real world locations, but that was recently said to no longer be on the cards, so that the team could focus on doing the best multiplayer possible. In fact, the game itself won't be a depiction of real-world conflicts, as the team found that approach was restrictive to their design, and so instead it will simply take inspiration from real-world but will ultimately be fiction. And they think that will allow them to ensure the game is not only more fun, but it will give them opportunities for character customization, post-release content, and community modding. In fact, when you make your character, you can choose what voice you have, for example. Perhaps you want to choose an American accent or Eastern European, for instance. What makes this game different to most FPS games though is its approach. The game gives you a very minimalistic HUD, and it does away with crosshairs and UI elements such as ammo, player health and radar. There's a big focus on learning the maps and playing smarter, knowing that you aren't going to be spoon-fed enemy locations, and one single shot to the chest or head can take you down. So this game definitely builds upon the first game. The same mechanics exist. You can also lean out from behind cover if you like. And in this new game you can also do things like call in airstrikes, drones and use vehicles, which is arguably the biggest change for the game. One of the roles that I got to play is kind of a commander role that can call in airstrikes and attack helicopters, but only when coordinating with teammates. So vehicles are going to play a small part of Sandstorm 2, something that wasn't present in the first game. Multiplayer modes will now feature light vehicles such as pickup trucks with mounted machine guns, some transport vans, and overall it adds something a little bit different to what is essentially an infantry focused game. Competitive multiplayer is also something that the team want to try and focus on, so there seems to be a high demand for it from the community, and so that they felt it made sense to introduce that now into Sandstorm than try to add it into the previous game. They have said that players can look forward to competitive matchmaking, rankings and a solid anti-cheat, ticking all the right boxes so far, and I believe one of the devs told me that they will have replay tools and spectator tools as well. In terms of multiplayer modes, you can expect a lot of the original game modes to carry across, because a lot of them work very well. Why reinvent the wheel? And you're going to see game modes like Push make a return, as well as Firefight for the competitive side of things. And as I said, this footage is from the 8-player co-op mode, which has you fighting against AI bots while you try to simultaneously shoot them and take over locations and destroy ammo caches and things like that. It's pretty fun for what it is, but I'm not sure it's something that I'd personally play regularly. I much prefer PvP, but it did remind me of Terrorist Hunt from the original Rainbow Six games, but of course with objectives and respawns. Now when it comes to weapons, you can expect a lot of them. The game may be set in a fictional location, but the core of the game is still based around modern military conflict, so weapons like the Uzi, the MP7, the AK-74, the FAL, the G3, the M4A1, the list goes on. Any modern weapon that you would expect to see in a modern day military setting, you'll see it in this game. And then in terms of attachments, you can equip your guns with sights such as holographic and red dots, and then tracer rounds, compensators, laser sights, flash hiders, the usual attachments that you might expect. It's all based around reality though, so don't expect to see anything that a soldier would likely not equip in the real world. One of the biggest changes in Sandstorm is the visuals. Thanks to the power of the Unreal Engine, you do notice how much better the game looks. Lighting is a big part of that, and while we all know that visuals are not the be-all and end-all, the gameplay is the most important factor, and it's always nice to see eye candy as well. I'm not saying it's the best looking game out on the market, but it's definitely an upgrade over the original. I love the fact that these guys actually do proper 3D rendered scopes as well, although that does seem to tank the performance quite a lot. Now, one of the reasons that I wanted to start playing and covering more games like this is that I feel like it's the direction things are going with gaming. I mean, look at BF5. No longer are we going to be reliant on 3D spotting, but we're going to have to use our game knowledge and map knowledge to gain an advantage over enemy players. Not only that, but weapons now have proper recoil to them, which is something of a departure from BF1, but games like Insurgency and Rising Storm force you to play in a very different way, and I think that's good practice for a game like BF5. It certainly gets you in the right frame of mind at least. So after playing the game for around 45 minutes, I feel like Sandstorm is shaping up to be a good tactical shooter. It's an evolution of the first game, but with a lot of work behind it thanks to the change of engine. The first game built up a really strong fan base on Steam, and it was arguably one of the best shooters on the platform. And I think that players will enjoy the second game just as much, and now console players will be able to get a taste for it as well. More on that in a second. That being said, I do have to mention a few negatives. I'm sure that you'll have noticed certain things in the footage, like the player animations definitely need some serious work. The game is in alpha right now, so still plenty of time to improve them, but the frames per second and the overall animations while players are moving and when transitioning are very work in progress. At least they look that way to me. I hope they can clean them up a lot. The player models in general don't look that fantastic either, so that's definitely an area that needs a lot of work before launch. Now, wrapping things up, it is worth saying that Sandstorm will be the first entry into the console market for the Insurgency franchise. This game will release on PS4 and Xbox too, and I feel like the popularity of games like Siege and PUBG on console proves that the console market do enjoy a truly hardcore tactical game, and so I do expect Sandstorm to do pretty well on that front. Consoles really don't have a game like this, so I truly believe that if the developers polish the console version and get it running well, then it could be a very big hit and super popular as a multiplayer entry for console players. It's also only going to be priced at $30 too, so it's a cheaper price point, and it's got full mod support and no paid for DLC. The lead gameplay designer told me at E3 that they're intending to support the game for 2 to 3 years with regular content to attempt to maintain and grow the player base over time. It's quite refreshing really. I was having a chat with the community manager John at E3, and he was explaining to me how the mod support has been so pivotal for the standalone game because people have actually made their own maps. Like the dev team has run competitions to design maps, and then the maps are that good from the community that they've made, they've actually ended up putting them in the game and becoming official maps. So I'd expect that with the new game Sandstorm also having that fantastic mod support and Unreal Engine, everyone can get that and use that for free. There's going to be a similar thing going down here, so there's going to be a ton of player created maps and content in this game. He told me that people have already started making the original maps in the Unreal Engine, so as soon as the game goes live, then they can add those and you'll be able to play them in the new game. That's pretty cool, but it doesn't just stop with maps either. What about something like a Battle Royale mode? It's possible to mod that into the game. Would it work in a game like this? Maybe not. But not just BR, I mean there's all sorts of things that you can do and change and add with the Unreal Engine. I love the fact that these guys are fully supporting mods for this game, and are welcome to the idea that if a mod or a map or a piece of content, whatever, is made by the community and it's good enough and people love it, then they are prepared to put that in the game and make it an official thing. That's awesome to see that in 2018, and I really applaud the devs for taking that stance. So if all goes to plan, this game is releasing in September on PC, but it will be coming out a bit later for console players. Even with the delay though, I think it's going to be great to see it make its mark on the console market, and it's going to be very interesting to see how it's received by that audience. It is a difficult game, but it's more challenging and therefore more satisfying when you pull off some team play and an epic flank, for example. I really believe that the multiplayer shooter genre is growing in the hardcore tactical scene now, and games like this will become the new in thing for a while. But let me know what you think down below. And that's all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, a dislike. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.